இப்போ கொடுத்துட்டேன். நீங்கள் இப்போ வேறு இன்னொன்று ஸ்ட்ரீம் கீ கொடுத்து போட்டேன். அதுதான் எங்கே போய் செக் பண்ணுறதுன்னு பார்க்குறேன். ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆகுது. ஸ்ட்ரீம் வீடியோ எங்கே போய் பார்க்குறது? இங்கேயே ஹோம் பேஜ்லேயே வருது. அதாவது இந்த ஸ்டுடியோலேயே இருக்குது. எந்த லிங்க்னா எங்கே போய் அந்த லிங்க்கை காப்பி பண்ணணும்னு கேட்குறேன். லைவ் வருதுன்னா இந்த ஸ்டுடியோ இருக்குல்ல, ஏன் ஸ்ட்ரீம் இருக்குல்ல, அதே இடத்துல தான் காட்டுது. இடத்துல தான் காட்டுது.
Congratulations on having a new administration. I think that is truly extraordinary.
We're all very relieved.
Yeah.
Sir, what happened, sir? Carnegie Mellon, is it?
No. The U.S. president.
Oh, U.S. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, the Washington Post has some very nice articles and also images.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at one of the images where it kind of shows the picture of who was who at the inauguration.
I watched it completely, sir.
I know, but I couldn't make out any faces because they were all wearing masks. And so basically, what the Washington Post did is kind of highlight the area where they were with a little circle and label it to the side. So I was able to see who all were there sitting on the main dais.
Yeah.
Which was good.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was kind of relief. But, it's a very divided country. It's all on both the Congress and the Senate.
Yeah.
Almost 50-50, exactly 50-50 in the Senate.
Yeah.
And they have this process of where, one person can hold up the entire thing by keeping on speaking.
That's right.
And only if 60% of the senators vote, then he can be stopped. And in a 50-50 Senate, you need 10 more people.
Yeah.
And in polarized situation, that may not be easy, because
Yes.
basically what happens is if some of them vote for, kind of closure,
Yeah.
then whenever they go home or they're at the airport, there are all kinds of people yelling at them saying, "You're a traitor." It
But
has become.
they should learn from the Indians about coalition governments.
Yeah.
Not only to government, but here suddenly the norm of kind of courtesy and treating each other with empathy and so on is gone. And if you happen to be in the wrong place, there are bullies. There are bullies in just a few number. They will
Yeah.
call you all kinds of bad names and everything else. And if you take them seriously, even
Yeah.
otherwise they'll kind of push you and maybe even punch you. And this has become very serious because for every little event, you need a police protection. And
Yeah.
that is not very good. And that has all been kind of raked up, in the last 4 years. I hope the situation can be brought back to normal, where you can't go around punching and shouting and insulting people on the street just because they look different.
Yeah.
And it's a very sad situation. Let us wait and see. Basically,
Yeah.
it's
Shall we start, sir?
yeah, please.
Yep.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Sheikh, are you there?
Yes, sir. We will be starting.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll be giving the welcome address. So there's the MC session. Thank you so much, both all of three of you joining with us, and very warm welcome and greetings to one and all of us here today. On this day, we have three very distinguished and renowned guests with us. Padmasri and Narayan Murthy, founder of Infosys, former CEO, chairman, and chief member of Infosys. Professor Raj Reddy, Professor of Computer Science and Robotics, Carnegie Mellon University, USA. Padmasri Professor Dr. N. Balakrishnan, Department of Aerospace Engineering and Supercomputer Education Research and Institute of Science. It is indeed our great honor and privilege that you have consented to be our guest for the event at a time when you are extremely occupied with several activities on hand. Being with you here virtually today is one of the happiest and proudest moments for all of us. I am confident that this is an exciting moment not only for me, but also for all participants present here online from India and across the globe who are watching this program live, mostly notably our students, friends gathered here today from various parts of the world. Technology and innovation is a key ingredient for growth of any nation, and this was something very close to Dr. Kalam as well. We look forward to your wisdom and thoughts on the topic AI for India, a vision for a developed nation. With great pride and joy, I, on behalf of myself, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation, and House of Kalam Rameswaram, wholeheartedly welcome you all this session. Thank you so much.
Can I start?
Yes, now I would like to now I request Professor Raj Reddy to start his session.
No, Sheikh, I'm supposed to introduce the two speakers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Special good morning and good evening to the two distinguished guests, Professor Raj Reddy and Dr. Narayan Murthy. Let me also join Mr. Sheikh Dawood in welcoming all of you. I'm very happy to see that Dr. Abdul Kalam International Foundation by House of Kalam in Rameshwaram has been organizing online webinar conference for the benefit of young students and those from the industry. Today, we are fortunate to have two illustrious sons of India, two visionary sons, as part of the webinar on AI for India, a vision for developed nation. I am honored to have the opportunity to introduce both Professor Raj Reddy and Dr. Murthy to all of you, though it may sound like selling ice to an Eskimo. Both Professor Raj and Dr. Murthy are close to Dr. Kalam, close friends of Dr. Kalam, and he held them at very high esteem. Professor Raj is a visionary and revered scientist across the world. He is an incarnation of Goddess Saraswati. He is the first Asian to receive the Turing Award in 1994, known as the Nobel Prize of Computer Science, for his work in the field of artificial intelligence. He's one of the early pioneers of artificial intelligence, has served on the faculty of Stanford and Carnegie Mellon for over 50 years. He was a founding director of the Robotics Institute at Carnegie Mellon. He was instrumental in helping create Rajiv Gandhi University of Knowledge Technology in India to cater to the educational needs of low-income, gifted rural youth, a visionary initiative in this country. He's the chairman of the IIIT Hyderabad. Professor Raj is very passionate about exploring the role of technology in service of society. One of his early efforts, the Center for Mondial Informatique et Ressources Humaines, was founded by Professor Raj and his colleagues in France in 1981. The center had its objectives in development of human resource in the third world countries using information technology. Several seminal experiments in providing computerized classrooms, rural media. This is in 1981. Rural medical delivery were done by this team. In 1984, President Mitterrand decorated Dr. Reddy with Legion d'Honneur medal. Universal Digital Library project was started by Professor Raj and his colleagues in the 90s to scan books and other media such as music, video, paintings, and newspapers to provide online access to all creative work to anyone, anywhere, anytime. A larger million books to the project was started in 2001 as an collaborative effort with China and India. Professor Raj proposed that a fully connected population. All I'm saying is he did that in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Fully connected population makes it possible to think of a KG to PG online college in every village, providing personalized instruction. And he also came up with a brilliant idea of PCTVT in the year 2000, which is now called the smartphone. And, iPhone is an embodiment of that. Raj also proposed that AI can be used to empower people at the bottom of the pyramid who have not benefited from the IT revolution so far. Professor Raj proposed that recent technological advances in AI will ultimately enable anyone to watch any movie, read any textbook, talk to anyone independent of the language independent of the language of the producer or a consumer, which is happening right now, 20 years later. I still have his PowerPoint presentation, which was done in the early 2000s. He recently proposed a superb idea that the use of smart sensor watches can be used to eliminate COVID lockdowns by monitoring sensor data to identify, isolate people with symptoms. Raj is a most decorated scientist of Indian origin. He was the co-chair of the Presidential Information Technology Advisory Committee, PTAC, from 1999 to 2001. He was one of the founders of the American Association of AI and was its president from 1987 to 89. He served on the International Board of Governors of Peres Center for Peace in Israel. He's a fellow of AAI, ACM, Acoustical Society of America, IEEE. Raj is a member of the United States National Academy of Engineering, American Academy of Arts and Sciences, Chinese Academy of Engineering, and more proudly, Indian National Science Academy and the Indian National Academy of Engineering. In 1994, as I mentioned, he received the Turing Award for pioneering the design and construction of large-scale AI systems. And 1984, Raj was awarded the French Legion of Honor by President Mitterrand. Professor Raj also received the Padma Bhushan from the President of India in 2001, Okawa Prize in 2004, the Honda Prize in 2005, and the Vannevar Bush Award in 2006. He has been awarded honorary doctorate from SV University Henry Poincare, University of New South Wales, Jawaharlal Nehru, Technological University, University of Massachusetts, University of Warwick, Anna University, Triple IT Allahabad, Andhra University, IIT Kharagpur, and the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Sir, it's a great honor to have you, sir. Dr. Narayan Murthy.
Now, I have not earned a doctorate, so please call me Mr. Murthy.
Okay, I'll do that.
I don't want to perpetuate
okay, fine.
any
I'm sorry.
untruth about me. My wife has earned an actual doctorate.
Yes, I know that.
I have not. So therefore,
okay.
I don't deserve to be called Dr. Murthy. Kindly call me Mr. Murthy.
Okay, Mr. Narayan Murthy is the dream and hero of almost all youth in India. If you have to name people who made India economically advanced using IT revolution, Mr. Murthy's name will be on the top. He taught us how to create a world-class company in India. Mr. Murthy and his 6 software professionals founded Infosys in 1981 with an initial capital investment of rupees 10,000, which was provided by my friend Dr. Sudha and his wife. She's his wife, Sudha Murthy. Murthy served as the CEO of Infosys for 21 years, from 1981 to 2002. At Infosys, he articulated, implemented the global delivery model for IT services outsourcing in India. He was a chairman of the board from 2002 to 2006, after which he became the chief mentor. In August 2011, he retired from the company, taking the title Chairman Emeritus. Mr. Murthy serves as an independent director on the corporate board of HSBC and has served as a director on the boards of DBS Bank, Unilever, ICICI, and NDTV. There are several boards on which he has been there, and he is also a great philanthropist. We are some of the beneficiaries of that, including Cornell University, INSEED, ESSEC, and Ford Foundation, and UN Foundation, and the Indo-British Partnership, Asian Institute of Management, a trustee of the Infosys Prize, a trustee of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, and a trustee of Rhodes Trust. He's also the chairman of the governing board of Public Health Foundation of India. He serves on the Asia Pacific Advisory Board of the British Telecommunication. In 2005, he co-chaired the World Economic Forum. There is a huge list of awards that he has received. In 2000, he received the Padma Shri Award, and in 2008, he received the Padma Vibhushan Award. In 2003, he received the Ernst & Young World Entrepreneur of the Year Award, IEEE Ernst Weber Engineering Leadership Recognition by IEEE, Honorary Commander of the Order of the British Empire, one of the highest awards of government of UK, Officer of the Legion of Honor of the Government of France, which I think Dr. Raj also received. Woodrow Wilson Award for the Corporate Citizenship. IEEE Honorary Membership by IEEE, which Dr. Kalam also received, I think. NDTV Indian of the Year, Hoover Medal, Philanthropist of the Year, Sayaji Ratna Award, and the 25 Greatest Global Indian Living Legends by NDTV, and CAF Chanchalani Global Indian Award. These are some of the awards. I would have missed many of them. I'm sure that you all know whom I'm talking about. When Dr. Kalam wanted to have his website inaugurated, he only could think of Mr. Murthy to inaugurate that. He did that at that time, it was a newly constructed auditorium at Infosys, and I was a witness there, and it was a superb show. The common trait between Dr. Kalam, Professor Raj, and Mr. Murthy is that they all went to vernacular schools, voracious readers, and 24/7 workaholics. I think Professor Raj and Dr. Kalam were the first ones in the family to go to a college. They're so humble that they never had anything bad to say, even to their worst distractors. Great human beings. We are all very honored to have Mr. Murthy, and we are very honored to have all of you. Thank you very much, sir.
Now I request Professor Reddy sir to give his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I will. Can you hear me, Dr. K?
Yes, sir. Very well, sir.
Yeah, you can hear.
Can you see the screen?
Yes,
My
sir.
screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I won't call Mr. Murthy. He has got, he was knighted by the British, so we could call him Sir.
Sir, correct.
So
And
anyway,
also equivalent to the knighthood from France as well. So
yes. So anyway, Dr. Balki, Dr. Sheikh, Madam Nazima, and friends, it gives me great pleasure to join you in this special celebration of Dr. Kalam. I was honored to have been introduced to Dr. Kalam by our mutual friend Balki, who in 2001 said, "You have to talk to each other," and he connected us by a phone. At that point, we had voice or IP phones just introduced, and we were trying to connect, do conference calling using that, and it was a very interesting experiment also. So I remember many interactions with Dr. Kalam, almost all of them mediated through the goodwill and friendship of Dr. Balki. And one of the interesting ones was when we had the Digital Library International meeting in India. Dr. Kalam was gracious enough to invite all of us to Rashtrapati Bhavan, and you can see the picture of that at the bottom left corner there of all the visitors, and you can, and then I had at least one dinner at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The thing I remember most about it is Dr. Kalam likes to eat very late, like it was like 10:30 or 11 before we had dinner. and the rest of us who are used to eating at 7 or 8, and so kind of had to wait. But it was a great dinner. From what I remember, he was a vegetarian, and it was a South Indian vegetarian, which I love. And it was a great dinner with Dr. Kalam. And we also had a meeting. The picture on the right is Dr. Kalam was given an honorary degree by Carnegie Mellon on October 16th when he was visiting of 2007. We had a major meeting with all the Indian community in Pittsburgh, and they were all delighted to see him at that time and hear him. And as Dr. Balki mentioned, he was always visionary. He was full of ideas, and all you need to do is take one of these ideas and then kind of. So today, my talk is about one of his ideas. My talk is about AI in service of Pura. Pura is a soundbite he coined, in 90s, and the main idea was the only way to improve rural areas is to make sure that they have the same amenities people in urban areas have. And this goes back to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi also realized we cannot, afford to, move everybody to urban areas and they'll live, in a bad, conditions. And he said, we need to teach them to make their own clothes, Swadeshi, and showed them how to make their own thread, and so those ideas go back, hundreds of years, And I believe that's the, if you look at China, China decided they're going to they're going to encourage all the rural people to move to cities. So there are at least 5 cities in China which are more than 30 million people. We don't have any city that in India, maybe Bombay and Delhi come close, that are of that size. And the part of the reason is in China they want to keep track of everyone, and it's easier to keep track of people if they're all together than if they're kind of distributed in a very large country. And so, whatever the reason, they're following a different path. I think our path is uh, should be to follow Dr. Kalam's vision of Pura, providing urban amenities to rural areas. So today's talk is about that. So just as a background, I happen to be working in AI for almost 60 years, purely by luck and by being in the right place at the right time. In 1963, when I went to Stanford as a graduate student, that was just the start of the research funding for AI in the USA. And MIT, CMU, and Stanford all received research funding. We got our first computer, PDP-1, which was standalone, where there were other big computers like IBM and Burroughs that cost like $1,000 or $2,000 an hour to use. And this computer was by itself in a lab, and I was fortunate to use it because most people in U.S. would kind of stop working at around 6 o'clock or so and go home for dinner and then go away. So from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day for 7 days a week, I had the whole computer to myself, and I thought I died and went to heaven because that's the best possible thing. I was the first PhD in AI from Stanford in 1966 and served on the faculty of Stanford. So when we talk about AI, people somehow seem to imagine it's going to happen overnight. It won't. It'll say we are on a 1,000-year journey, maybe longer. When you think about human intelligence, it has taken us to become a cognitive Homo sapien at least 70,000 years, according to historians. And so it's going to take more than 100 or 1,000, maybe even 1,000 years. And I think we need to have a very clear idea of why we are working on AI and what we are working on. And to me, the analogy is with engineering. For engineering, we work on engineering to improve the physical capabilities of the human being. We work on AI to improve the mental or enhance the mental capabilities of the human being. When we couldn't cross a river, we built a bridge. When we couldn't cross an ocean, we built ships. And when we couldn't go at walk and move faster than 4 miles an hour, we built cars and aeroplanes. And similarly, there are lots of limitations of the human brain. There are lots of things we forget, and we make mistakes. They say to err is human. We make a lot of limitations, and we can use the AI and computer technology to enhance the capabilities so that many of the limitations that we have will overcome. And people then have taken the phrase AI and imagined all kinds of other things, like the robots taking over the world. It's not going to happen. As far as I'm concerned, it will never happen. And but as long as we look at it as a tool, just like engineering as a tool, to enhancing the mental capabilities. And we should work on things of that kind rather than everything else. So in AI, we have, made a lot of progress even in the last 50 years. In 1997, there was a world champion chess machine that beat the, reigning world champion human being, Kasparov. And then more recently, with big data and machine learning, we have now been able to translate from any language to any language, do speech-to-speech translation, and have self-driving cars. And U.S. and China are spending billions of dollars and have become AI superpowers. India has to do more with less. We don't have that kind of resources. So we have to be very, very careful about how we do it. So if we go to Dr. Kalam's vision of Pura, the amenities that we take for granted are water, food, energy, health, and education and shelter. There's a there's a movie and a phrase called roti, kapdan, or makan. And basically, most human beings need roti, kapdan, makan. And so there is a broader thesis by Maslow on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which kind of gives the list of things every human being needs. And that's what Dr. Kalam was saying. We expect to have everyone to have those things. The question is, how can we make sure that every person in a village has clean water, and water, not polluted, or has food, and has energy, and has healthcare and education, and has a house to live in. And it's not easy to do when you have 1.3, 1.4 billion people on how to do it. And the phrase he used was connectivity. And what he said was urban amenities involve physical connectivity like roads and other things, and electronic connectivity, wireless and internet, leading to Dr. Balke, I hope I am not taking too much time, but let me know when there's about 10 minutes and then I can close it up. Connectivity leads to knowledge connectivity, enabling economic connectivity. And AI, from the point of view of knowledge connectivity, is again a tool, And there's a famous Chinese proverb: give man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. Teach man to fish, you will feed him for life. That's what knowledge connectivity is about providing people the knowledge they need to cope with scarcities that they will face. Supposing there's no water, it's all polluted water in the village. And if you knew you had to boil the water and filter it and drink it, if you didn't know that, then you'll have all kinds of diseases and infections and die. And that's what it means. Basically, the knowledge is there, and we need to make sure the people in the villages have access to that knowledge. The problem, of course, is when Dr. Kalam proposed it, it was not clear how to provide the knowledge connectivity, because you needed to have a computer, and that was expensive. What we need now is we need to make sure that we have a fully connected population. I'll come back to that, and the cost of that is less than the cost of the COVID loss of the GDP today. But what we need is we need knowledge and skills for learning to learn and learning to think and learning to live at the primary educational level. Provide them with digital literacy so that even if they drop out, they can essentially go back and learn what they need, saying, hey, there's a problem with water, what do I do? And they'll find the answer on the internet and in the web. And the economic connectivity is the next step, namely we need to be able to say, I need to grow this farm, this horticulture farm. What should I do? And or I need to become a mechanic. How do I begin and what skills do I need? All of those require access to skills and employment. And this, in turn, requires rapid access to relevant knowledge and skills. You can't say, take 4 years of degree in agriculture so that you can be an agricultural farmer. You need to be able to teach what I need to know about agriculture and farming in one day, maybe even sooner. And there's a science fiction movie called Matrix, where I'll show you a phrase of it, where they need to know how to fly a helicopter. They learn it and download the whole thing into the brain automatically and do it in matters of seconds. I don't think we understand how to download things into the brain yet. It may never happen, but independent of that, we can have a man-machine system that can learn how to fly the helicopter. Even if I didn't know completely how to fly it, it can kind of guide me and into what we call intelligence amplifiers. So let me show you that film. It's only a short film. You saw that thing?
Not yet.
Outbreak.
I need a pilot. Hurry.
So the knowledge and skills can be actually provided to people in the villages by giving them the skills of learning to learn and learning to think, and then doing an appropriate search and finding a relevant YouTube video that will give them what they need to know. So I'll now quickly go through 3 or 4 slides on the Pura, empowering people at the bottom of the pyramid, because most of the people in the villages are at the bottom of the pyramid with the lowest incomes. And they represent actually $1 trillion a year market, but all that they need are the basic necessities. They don't need the very caviar and chocolates, and they do probably, but the more important things are the basic necessities of Maslow. And so basically, if you are in a village, you need knowledge on how to do online shopping, how to do online banking to transfer money. For example, I had provided some tablets, and I asked them to show them how to use it. The first thing they did was they needed to find a way of transferring money from their bank to charge the phone, and this became a very useful way for them to do it. And access to knowledge, that we worked on digital libraries because there are millions of books that people should have access to. Now there are no libraries in most villages, and this would become very important. Encyclopedia, Wikipedia is used by millions of people every day. And so people in US and in Western world have unfair advantages. They have access to all this knowledge. And we in India, our encyclopedias with Telugu, or Tamil encyclopedias, there are less than 1% of the articles. And so we are kind of being deprived of the access to the knowledge. There is some other microphone on. If you can all mute it, that would be great. So access to skills and knowledge, and this is where the vision of KG to PG knowledge in every village. Right now, we go to a particular classroom, and then somehow, I don't know if you're able to see my slide. In my case, My slide is being hidden. Okay.
Sir, can you share it again? I think we are not able to see.
Can't see it now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, at this point, we have the opportunity so that anyone in any village can learn anything they want, provided they're connected and have the appropriate device, and they have basic digital literacy, learning to learn, learning to think, and learning to live. And so so personalized education, I won't go into it because we don't have the time. And the estimated cost is about 10,000 rupees per student per year. I believe we spend much more, for example, about that much, even in rural villages these days. But this is kind of to be amortized, depreciated over a 5-year period or something. So the cost of education will increase by 10 to 20%, but now you are giving a lifeline to every person so that by the time they graduate from 5th grade and drop out of school, which 40% of the people in India drop out after 5th grade, it is they have a tool that they know they can use and discover whatever they need when they become adults and have to live in the villages. Education and entertainment. Entertainment turns out to be very important because there is not much else. If you live in a city, you can go play golf and you can play tennis, you can play racquetball, whatever, cricket, watch cricket. If you're in a village, you don't have any of those things. So what we are able to, you can do is you can watch any movie, read any textbook, watch any cricket game, talk to anybody in India and the world, independent of the language of the producer and consumer. And the same is true with respect to health security. If you have a smart sensor watch, you can essentially, we don't have to go through this problem of lockdowns. We can eliminate lockdowns completely. And so, in conclusion, there are several AI-centric opportunities providing amenities such as buying and selling, banking and education and access to information, using an AI assistant which is able to speak in a local language so that even if you're illiterate and don't know how to read anything, it's able to talk to you and help you and assist you with all these things that are essential to provide the urban amenities for illiterate people in the rural villages. And the same is true from one-size-fits-all education to one-on-one. Not everybody is that smart, and sometimes they need a little help. Right now, if you go to a class with 50 students in the class in the 1st grade, everybody gets the same education. If you're not able to follow, tough luck, you're out of it, and then you're treated as though you're stupid. That is not true, it turns out. Famous educationist Benjamin Bloom said, given enough time, I can teach anyone anything. It's just a question of understanding individual limitations and individual mind bugs, as we call them, and then remove them, then they'll blossom. So some people might take 6 months to go through the material, others might take 1 year, others may take 2 years. We can't simply say everything fits 1 semester, all education, and you have to graduate. So if it takes a little longer, it doesn't matter, basically. And the same is true with respect to health and education. Now, I want to end the talk. I know there are lots of students in Tamil Nadu and other places listening to the thing. And most of you, if my current estimates are right, will live to be 130 to 150 years old. So you have you're only probably now 20. So supposing you take 5 years or take 10 years, something, to go do a project in a village and adopt a village, then you still have 100 years or more than 100 years to to live whatever the way you want to live. So I think this will provide a significant opening of the mind. And so what I'm hoping is, supposing if I were a student, I could go to my village. I just go there. I don't have any money, and so I can't simply give them a laptop myself. But I know I have the knowledge on how to get laptops. For example, in Kerala and Bengal, already they're giving laptops. Even in other states, very soon they'll be providing laptops. So the question is, if you knew who to contact, how to do the thing, you will be able to get laptops to every person, every student in the village. And then problem comes in. Then when you give them a physical laptop, they don't know what to do with it. It just might as well be a brick. And so you need to give them the digital literacy. And if you go to the teachers in the school, they won't know what to do. And you will be able to kind of teach the teachers and then make sure every student has a tablet or laptop. And if they're stuck, that's okay, because now it's one-on-one education. It's about 100 to 200 years ago, maybe 1,000 years ago, in Gurukulams, and even more recently in US, in one-room schoolhouse. There used to be one teacher and 50 students, but they're all in different grades, first grade, second grade, all to the 12th grade. So, and then this one teacher used to kind of make sure that every one of them is going through their assigned educational thing and help them. And if the teacher is busy, then the upperclassmen are supposed to take over and help somebody. And so the whole educational process was different. That's how Gurukulams work, right? You went to some ashram and the teacher made you read appropriate things whenever he felt like it. The rest of the time you worked in his farm and made sure you're earning your keep, right? And so the second thing you could do and need to do is there are all these videos you can create and put them on YouTube for rural skills. And I believe this would be fish, you feed him for a day, teach man to fish, you'll feed him for life. You can't afford to build everybody a home, but you can teach them how to get their own home, even if they have zero resources. Because there are all these programs that the government is doing where they will subsidize the construction of the home, but nobody knows how to get that, right? And if you're in a town, you can learn from each other and very quickly go and get the money and so on. I had a situation where we set up this university for rural students, and somebody went to court saying, my son should have been admitted. I said, this is, if you know enough to go to a high court to do that, that means you're not rural at all. You should not be admitted. But apparently the court saw it differently. They thought if he's meritorious, then he should be admitted. I said, this whole university has been opened for rural students. Why are you, kind of asking to be admitted? Anyway.
So we have another 2 minutes, sir.
I'm sorry?
We have another 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I'm done almost.
Thank you.
So finally, we need to think in terms of rural entrepreneurship. There may be many people in the village who might want to start a restaurant or a barber shop or a adobe shop or something, but they don't have the money and they don't know how to go about doing it. It turns out an entrepreneurship involves knowledge and how to do something. You need access to money. That means you need to know how to go to a bank and borrow money. And most of the time, if you go there, it won't help you. But if one of you, as a student, were in the village, you can go with them and to make sure that they get the loan that they need, not microfinance, which is another way of saying banking with loans or interest at 24%. It should be micro venture capitalist. You provide the money, and if they lose, you lose. And that kind of money is very different. And we need to kind of think in terms of that. We need to provide them management and marketing skills. And you can do that by videos, but you can also do it by just being physically there and saying, let me take care of the management, and whatever you produce, I'll make sure you get the best possible price for it, and so on. So I think each of you have an opportunity to make a difference in the world, to provide the urban amenities in rural villages and make good on the vision of Dr. Kalam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for a superb talk. And now we open the floor for question and answer. Sheikh.
Yes, sir. So I will be calling this name by name. So there'll be first we'll start with Mr. Narayana Murthy. Then I will say whom they will ask. So now I would like to call Mr. Venkatrangan Thirumalai, CEO of Little Kid Services. He will ask a question to Mr. Narayana Murthy.
Good evening, sir. It's a privilege to meet a distinguished guest like you. My question is to Mr. Narayan Murthy. Sir, for Dr. Kalam, technology was never about the present. It was always about the future. So 10 years back, he said in one of the functions in our office, he was talking about an 100% paperless, 100% transportless office where people could be working without coming to physically to the office. And that's the reality we are living in the last 1 year. Now, my question to you, sir, is from here, how do you see, where do you see us going in the next 20 years? By 2040, what will be the changes that will be sticking from last year? And what are the new changes that are likely to come? What is the future of work by 2040? Thank you, sir. Sir, we can't hear you. No, sir, not yet.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Oh.
now we can, sir. Thank you.
First of all, let me say that it is an absolute honor and a privilege to share this platform with the hero of our times, Professor Raj Reddy, and my good friend, Professor Balakrishnan. I thank you people for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Kalam was a visionary. He foresaw how technology would make our lives better. To me, science is about unraveling the mysteries of nature. Technology is about using the ideas of science to make life more comfortable, better, healthier, safer, prosperous, and provide with better entertainment. The relevant digital technologies of the future that I can see sitting here, I am not Professor Raj Reddy or Professor Balakrishnan. So as a practitioner, what I see are the IoT, 5G mobile technologies, cloud, AI and machine learning, big data and analytics, blockchain, Bitcoin, and 3D printing. I believe that the future work will be influenced to a large extent by three major technologies among the many that I spoke about. And they would be IoT, which is the Internet of Things, AI, that is artificial intelligence, cloud technology, and 5G. Now, I don't want to get into the details of this, but the reality is that let me spend a little bit of time about IoT. The term IoT is very nebulous. There is no specific gadget that you can identify as IoT. It is an ensemble of physical machines and gadgets, computing machines, internet and communications gadgets coming together to apply the power of internet to real-time process-oriented and event-driven applications like surgery, enabling automatic driving of cars, controlling of a furnace or a nuclear reactor, controlling an aircraft, or a satellite, controlling your refrigerator or TV at home from your office, relocating a truck, locating a truck in its route, creating and operating smart cities and smart villages, helping the efficient use of water, electricity, and air conditioning, and many other applications. Now, one fundamental feature of an IoT application is that it operates in real time. In other words, the computer responds within the resolution time of the process that it is controlling. IoT has become possible because of improvements in the computational power, in sensor technologies, D2A and A2D technologies, and even communication technologies like 4G and 5G. Now, let me not go too much into details of this. I could do it at when we have more time. But the reality is simply this: each of these technologies that I spoke about, whether it's IoT or 5G or cloud or AI, as Professor Raj Reddy has explained much better than I would ever do, have an important role in ensuring that the entire country, that entire 1.35 billion Indians, can make their lives better using these technologies. It's very, very difficult to say how the technology will take us to a different orbit in the next 10, 20 years. But all that I would say is, as long as we are open to learn, as Professor Raj Reddy pointed out, as long as we have earned the ability of learning to learn and applying it to solve problems around us, I believe that we can actually use these technologies to make our lives better.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I have another question for you from Mr. Sasikumar Gandham, CEO, Salcom Manufacturing.
Sir, good evening. It's indeed a great honor and a pleasure, to be sharing being here today this evening with you. Sir, my question is, bedrock of our economy is agriculture. I mean, India is basically a country with lots of agricultural background. While areas such as software, manufacturing, biotech have actually reached a considerable progress. But while this has happened, but our farmers are still struggling with fulfilling their basic needs. What do we really need to do to get our agricultural production to be in line with Western countries such as Israel? How can technology really help our farmers?
That is a good question. Today in our country, about 45% of the population depends directly or indirectly on agriculture. Some people say it is 52%. And they produce just 16% of our GDP. That means the per capita GDP of an agricultural worker in India is about 1/3 of the already low Indian per capita GDP of $2,000, or the per capita GDP in agriculture is about $600. I mean, you can convert it into rupees. It's somewhere around 45,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees a year, which is hardly 4,000 rupees per month. This is very, very low. The best solution, therefore, is to reduce the number of people employed in agriculture and shift them to low-tech manufacturing and services. Therefore, we have to move about 2/3 of the Indian farm labor from agriculture to manufacturing and services. To do this, we have to use technology for farming. That's the only way you can have fewer people producing more from agriculture. Technology becomes viable when the farm size is much larger than what it is today. One way of solving these problems is to use cooperatives like Dr. Kurian did in milk. And it has been a huge success. Amul has been a huge success. So, therefore, the leaders of all the political parties have to come together and think of helping our farmers, encouraging our farmers to form cooperatives, thereby they can involve technology, tractors, and many other things, so that we can improve the productivity, revenue productivity of agriculture. Second, I think the government of India has done a good thing by the new reforms in bringing better prices to farmers through providing additional market mechanisms. However, this is under contest. There are lots of discussions are going on. Therefore, I hope both the sides will come to an agreement on this, because experts tell me that this is good for the farmers. Third, we have to seek the advice of agricultural experts in changing the fertilizers that we use. In fact, as Professor Swaminathan has pointed out many times, we have been using the same set of fertilizers for the last 54 years. As we all know, Professor Swaminathan was the person who introduced the Green Revolution under under Dr. Sri Subramaniam, who was the agricultural minister under Indira Gandhi at that time. And since the time, I am told there has not been much change in the fertilizer that we use. Second is better use of water. We can learn a lot from a country like Israel. Those of us who have visited Israel can truly appreciate how you can enhance the agricultural productivity using less water. And of course, we have to use better rotation of crops. I would say these are some of the things that we need to do.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite one student, Ilakia, to ask question to Professor Raj Reddy.
Yeah.
Ilakia, are you there? Ilakia? Okay, there is some issue. So now again, I asked Mr. Sultan Ismail, Dr. Sultan Ismail, soil biologist, to ask question to Mr. Narayan Murthy.
Mr. Narayan Murthy, sir, namaskar and vanakkam. The question is almost like the previous question. Basically, I'm a soil biologist working with farmers and related to soil organisms. Sir, Kalam sir's vision 2020 was focused on aiming at doubling agriculture and increased food processing, providing urban social poverty and illiteracy, operating appropriate technological interventions about value-added products. Now, can we have value-added products to increase the technology, as we were mentioning before? When you are talking about the new laws, when every product has a price, every computer has a price fixed by the company, why is it that MSP should not be encouraged for farmers? Sir, as we are entered 2021, how far do you think we have realized the vision of APJ Abdul Kalam? Because I have heard him speak at MS Swaminathan Foundation, myself personally, because we were sharing the platform together.
I'll tell you, I have a problem. That is my limitation of the mind. I am not a visionary professor like Professor Reddy or like Professor Balakrishnan. My area of expertise is try to do whatever best within the constraints that you have and invite experts to remove some of the constraints that we have had in our company. That is the approach I would take. So therefore, whatever reply I give has to be looked at in that context. We have made some progress in each of the areas that you spoke about. Still, we are far away from Pura, that is, providing urban amenities in rural areas, that the Pura idea of Sri Kalam. Now, let's remember that 830 million Indians live in about 640,000 villages. To provide Pura facilities for these villages requires a lot of investments. Professor Raj Reddy spoke about the power of knowledge, use of knowledge, etc. Now, but to even think of providing these basic amenities, like we have to bring better education, better nutrition, better drinkable water, better healthcare facilities, better shelter to rural areas. To do this, it requires a lot of investments. As I said before, the first task is to improve the income of rural workers so that their consumption levels become higher. That means jobs with better income for these people. We have to make rural areas suitable for urban educated teachers, healthcare workers, and workers in other services, either to settle in rural areas or to visit them on a daily basis. Parallelly, we should reduce our population growth rates. Somehow, after what happened during the emergency, that is 1975 to 1978, no prime minister has stood up and said, this is our biggest problem. We have lost somewhere around 46 years in focusing on reducing our population growth. Well, the southern states have done better than northern states, but that is not sufficient. It is not very clear to me whether we can improve the lives for people adequately with this kind of population that we have and this kind of population growth rates. Let us look at one simple data point. If we have to take the per capita productivity of every Indian to somewhere around 7 lakhs or 25,000, somewhere around 60,000 rupees per month, which is what is needed today to lead a reasonable life, then we are talking of raising our GDP to somewhere around $14 trillion. And as you know, we are trying very hard even to get to $5 trillion. Technology can definitely play an important role in reducing the cost and in improving the quality of rural people. But the capital cost of producing technology to these 830 million rural people is going to be huge. Let me stop here because I can go on and on, but
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. M. Akila to ask the question to Professor Reddy. Dr. Akila.
Good evening. Sir, every time whenever we say Industry 4.0, it includes artificial intelligence also. We have a saying that we are 25 years below the standard of the developed nations. How are we going to take this AI to the common people when so much of transformation is needed? So I put across this question to Dr. Reddy.
Sir, you are muted, sir. Can you unmute yourself? The bottom. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Important thing is we need to think in terms of a fully connected population. So if we want to think of a fully connected population, as Dr. Narayan Murthy said, the cost of providing 1.4 billion people with a smartphone, tablet, costing 10,000 rupees. So we're talking about 10 to the 9 times 10 to the 4, 10 to the 13 rupees. And that is 10 trillion rupees. My estimate is the recent lockdown because of COVID is costing us more than the total cost. If we think in terms of dollars, the cost of providing 1 billion people with a laptop or tablet costing $100, we're talking about $100 billion dollars. The 10% loss of GDP is turning out to be of the order of $300 billion. So about between 1/3 to 1/2 of the cost of the money we lost, we can provide everyone with a connected situation. That is the way to look at the cost. The country overall has lots of needs and lots of demands. My submission is the first order of business is to get the fully connected population. Once we have that, people are very entrepreneurial and smart, and once they are able to figure out what they have to do, they will figure it out and reach the level that Dr. Narayan Murthy was saying, namely, if we have to increase our per capita income by a factor of 10 from 60,000 to 6 lakhs or something, and it can be done. And it's just a question of what it is that we need to do to empower people, empower the entire population. So my view is a fully connected population has to be the goal for the country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Mr. Muralidharan, former chairman Ethiraj College, to ask a question to Mr. Narayan Murthy.
Very good evening to Mr. Narayan Murthy and a very good morning to Dr. Reddy. All of us in the IT industry have great reverence to both Mr. Narayan Murthy and Dr. Raj Reddy. Incidentally, I'm very happy that Dr. Raj Reddy, he's my super senior at my alma mater, the College of Engineering, Gindi, Chennai. So that's another nice feeling today. Now on to my question to Mr. Murthy. With the rise in digital technology usage in teaching and learning, which has further increased this year due to the COVID impact, what, according to you, would be the role of traditional educational institutions, the classroom institutions, physical classrooms, and teachers in the new digital world, and how can the academia, which has often been criticized for not adapting to the real world, how can they adapt to this change? Just my question to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much. While online teaching and learning bring tremendous value to our country in general and to rural India in particular, I believe that investments in wired and wireless bandwidth is extremely important in making online education successful. I participate in a lot of these conferences using Zoom or WebEx, etc. But let me tell you that even in our cities, most often the quality of connection we get due to lack of bandwidth is not very good. So therefore, it is very, very important for us to provide, as Professor Raj Reddy pointed out, a good quality connectivity for the whole of India, for the entire 1.35 billion people. But right now, it is not affordable for majority of Indians. For example, at home, I have a 100 megabits per second dedicated line to the server, to the provider. But that costs me a little bit of money, which is not easy for many people, particularly in rural India. Second, online classes in countries like India tend to increase the student-teacher ratio, and therefore they make interaction difficult. This is where I think our intellectuals, our professors will have to work on how to make interaction better in spite of this online interaction, in spite of having a high student-teacher ratio. Further, in teaching science, particularly science, we need to provide access to laboratories and experimentation facility which can be seen very clearly by our children. This is, at this point of time, this is not easily demonstrable online. Therefore, our intellectuals have to work on how to bring the power of virtual access even to experimentation so that they can appreciate it. Fourth, the standard deviation of the competence of the children between urban India and rural India, for no fault of the children in either part of the country, may become an issue. Therefore, my view is that India should use online education very judiciously in subjects for which it is more suited. First, as Professor Raj Reddy pointed out, we should realize that after all, we have lost about 20% of our GDP due to COVID. That itself translates to somewhere around 400 to 500 billion dollars. And therefore, even if we spend only 20% of that in providing online reasonable quality connectivity to every Indian, I think that where we could probably go to the next step.
Thank you, sir. So,
thank you very much, sir.
So now I'll invite Sarumadi, student, to ask a question to Professor Raj Reddy.
Good evening, everyone present here. It's my pleasure to participate in this online webinar conference. Thanks to Dr. PJ. I am Sarumadi from KPR Institute of Engineering and Technology. My question to Professor Raj Reddy. And sir, my question is there an AI possible somehow that is more intelligent than human intelligence?
Dr. Balki, can you repeat what the question was?
I think she said, is there possibilities of machine intelligence being more than the human intelligence?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So there are areas where machines have already demonstrated they can provide better solutions than human beings, because we have inherent limitations on how much data can we absorb and what we can do. And that's where the big data and machine learning is proving to be extremely helpful. At the same time, there are many areas where human beings are able to make inferences, what we call common sense knowledge, that machines completely fail. And this has been a major problem. And a good example is if you say, go to the bank and get some money, you and I understand it. But the bank could be a river bank or a money bank or a bank on me or any number of things. And so you have to say something like, go to the bank on Forbes Avenue, something where it's very much, the context provides the information. Or in this case, when I said, go to the bank and get some money, the fact that I'm talking about money defines which kind of a bank I'm talking about. That is still very hard for computers to do. And we're trying to figure it out. But in general, what we think will happen is a man-machine symbiosis, where human beings do the things that they can still do, and computers do the things that they can do faster, and even infer things that human beings simply cannot infer, because they're able to see patterns in billions of items of data that human mind is incapable of handling. So I think in the future we'll see very interesting results coming from that. And if I may go back to the comment Dr. Narayan said, so if we have lost like $600 billion, we can provide a tablet and connectivity for every person for about 1/3 to at most one half to 1/3 to one of the total cost. So the government should simply bite the bullet and get everyone free connectivity and free the thing. They can go ahead and charge if you want to watch cable TV and all kinds of things can be done, but somehow the government has to understand a fully connected population will increase the economic activity in the country by a factor of 10. That's how we'll get to the numbers Dr. Narayan was talking about.
Thank you, sir. Next, I invite Dr. Google from ISRO. Google, you can ask question to Narayan. Mr. Narayan.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you so much. It's greeting to Narayan sir, and indeed pleasure to meet you at this forum, sir. Thank you. My question is that how do we think India is going to take a technology in hand to export the global needs and create a benchmark product to achieve our GDP growth nearly to 12 to 15%? And to reach this target, what new technology need to adopt, and how to bring back the Indians who are living abroad and create asset of this human being for our country needs?
Well, thank you for that question. I believe that technology is not the biggest bottleneck to our success in achieving a high GDP growth rate and in expanding our exports. My belief is, given the low consumption capacity of a large percentage of Indians, we cannot improve our GDP growth rate to the kind of numbers that you spoke about unless we enhance our exports from the current somewhere around 12 to 13% of our GDP to about 30 to 40%. I mean, that's what other countries that have achieved high GDP growth rates, have done that. To do this, we need a cultural transformation in India for us to succeed in exports. We have to have high aspiration. We have to be, our leaders, our bureaucrats, our corporate leaders, all of them have to become honest. We have to overcome apathy. We have to work hard. We have to be disciplined. We have to appreciate the value of time. We have to improve our work productivity and quality. We have to improve our ability to innovate. And we have to become more open-minded to learn from nations and cultures that have done better than us. With such a culture, I believe that we can aim for the global bazaar and export, create jobs with better and better disposable income so that those people start, buying things, start consuming more and more stuff in India, and therefore the domestic part of the GDP will also grow very well. Now let me answer the second part. Today, you spoke about how do we attract people, smart people back to this country, etc. Did you ask that part or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, today we live in a globalized world. We operate as a global village. India has to become an active and respected member of the global higher education system. There is an increased need for interaction between scientists and engineers in India and those abroad. One easy way of doing it is to have a small percentage of competent Indian scientists and engineers settling abroad and contributing to India through such exchange of ideas and discussions. These people raise the image of India and enhance respect for India on the global scene. I cannot think of a better example of this than Professor Raj Reddy. He is a stellar example of how an Indian abroad can raise the image for India. As we all know, is the first and the only Asian, correct me if I'm wrong, to have won the Turing Award, or definitely was the first Asian to win the Turing Award. He is highly respected. So Professor Raj Reddy has added probably 100,000 times the respect for India than all our ambassadors and others. So therefore, I think it is very important. I do not see any issue with a small percentage of bright Indians going abroad for higher education, succeeding there, taking up jobs abroad, and operating as model citizens of that society. There are lots of constraints for Indians abroad to return after 10 or 20 years. Though Professor Rajareddy has worked out a unique model, he spends a part of his time here in India, but not everybody can do that. And those are suitable appointments, suitable housing, suitable education for children, etc., etc. The best solution for this problem is to make India attractive enough to Indian students abroad to return. Jawaharlal Nehru did that to a certain extent. Every one of my teachers at IITK was a bright, young, and enthusiastic professor who had gotten his or her PhD from a well-known US or UK university. Therefore, the plan for us should be to create an operating environment in our higher education institutions like the one in developed nations. Total academic freedom, freedom to invite academicians from developed nations and to visit them, no interference from politicians in governing and managing these institutions, zero bureaucratic control over higher educational institutions, no restrictions on salaries for professors, good accommodation for faculty and staff, starting good quality English medium, primary and secondary schools for on campuses for children of faculty and staff, and a good and attractive retirement plan for professors so that they continue to live comfortably post retirement. The government can give each higher educational institution so many rupees per student per year and leave them free. There should be no other control on them like it happens in Singapore today. What Singapore does is Singapore says we can give you so many Singapore dollar per student per year, and this year we can give for only so many students, and the rest is yours. What salary you give to professors, how you manage is your business. If we did all of these, and I'm sure most of the students would find it easier to return to India. Having said that, let me tell you that I do not know of a single NRI, not one NRI, who does not wish well for India and who does not want to add value to India. So, therefore, we have to think of ways of using the power of these NRIs to add to the power of the resident Indians here to make India a country that will solve the problems of poverty for our country.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Sanjay, a student, to ask a question to Professor Reddy. Sanjay? Sanjay, are you there? Okay. Now I ask Mr. Yeah, go ahead, Sanjay.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to participate in this webinar conference. First of all, thanks to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Foundation giving for this opportunity. I am Sanjay. I am from Coimbatore, Kalingar Karnool Institute of Technology. My question to Professor Reddy sir, and my question is: does the growth of artificial intelligence in India will affect the employment?
Sir, you are muted. Professor, you are muted.
If you look at history of technology, forget about AI only, when the original industrial revolution happened, there were pockets of unemployment even in England, where various mills were suddenly lost people. There were Luddites who went and broke up machines. But in the long run, it was shown that actually technology increased the employment. But there is a shift. People that used to do certain things, like in 1800, 60 and so on, if you're used to driving a carriage or taking care of horses, in 1920, when the cars came in, you don't need that whole technology and infrastructure that existed. So people have to move to some other areas. And so the important thing here is, in the long run, there'll be more opportunities and more employment. However, there is this important issue many governments forget. There is temporary dislocation. Through no fault of my own, I'm suddenly without a job. And you can't say, go learn about AI, so you'll get more jobs, because I don't want to learn anything. I'm 60 years old. I just want, you took my job away, the government has to take care of it. So we need a social safety blanket, what we sometimes call UBI, Universal Basic Income, or some such thing, where if the government or anyone causes certain dislocations, which were not caused by the individual not showing up for work or doing something, then it is the responsibility of the society to take care of them and bear the additional cost. So this is where capitalism does not quite work the way it ought to be. They simply say, if you're out of a job, too bad, it's because none of, you're not good enough, therefore you should suffer. I didn't lose my job because I was incompetent. It's just you kind of introduced globalization or something. So I think there are a set of social issues that the government and society has to take into consideration of how to provide a safety net for people that are dislocated as a result of advances in technology. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Mr. Vignesh to ask a question to Mr. Narayan. Vignesh?
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Namaste all. Thanks to House of Kalam and thanks to Mr. Dawood sir and Salim sir for giving me this great opportunity. It's a great privilege for me to interact with Mr. Narayanamurthy sir and also Mr. Raj sir. So my question is, what will be the impact of digital transformation and emerging technologies in unorganized sector, and how these transformational activities helps in overcoming the prevailing inequalities in this particular sector?
Sir, you are muted, sir.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, sir. No, it's audible, sir.
First of all, let's remember that the only way we can reduce inequalities is by increasing the minimum wages. And of course, by the captains of capitalism not becoming victims of greed. Both sides have to happen. That these things can only happen. Increasing the minimum wage can only happen by improving the work productivity of every worker and by producing more in an hour, by producing things of what the customers perceive as of higher value than we used to do. This is where I believe technology becomes handy. The unorganized sector is primarily in SMEs, small and medium enterprises, mostly small enterprises. These SMEs serve as inputs to the economy, inputs to large companies, either as ancillaries or in building infrastructure and participating in the services sector, like these kirana shops and all of that. Digital technology helps in improving the productivity of workers, even in the organized sector, by ensuring that traditional things like payroll, invoices, tax, GSTs, purchases, accounts receivables, if any, management of inventory, work productivity improvements, and also online or web-based selling possible. Further, as the productivity of medium and large companies improve, the compensation of their employees and the prices they can pay their vendors, which are the SMEs in these unorganized sectors, also increase. Since technology improves the productivity of workers, even in the unorganized sectors, I believe that their salaries will increase and the inequalities will reduce.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Ilakia again, so civil sponsor Ilakia to ask question to Professor Reddy. After that, we have a couple of more questions, then we'll be closing the session. Ms. Ilakya.
Good evening, one and all present here. I am very happy to participate in this online webinar. I would like to thank Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation for giving me an opportunity. I am Ilakya from Purochitalevar Dr. MGR College for Arts and Science for Women, Uchupli, Ramanathapuram district. My question is to respected and honorable Raj Reddy sir. And my question is, how artificial intelligence used to sustainable development?
So, in general, artificial intelligence is able to kind of provide an intelligence amplifier so that you can do your job faster and better, as Dr. Narayan Murthy said, namely to improve the productivity, even though you may not have had the necessary 4 years of education. And I believe we will be getting there. And in the process, we need to kind of think in terms of how we deal with the people that are dislocated. So AI, I think, can help, but there's an underlying assumption. In order for AI to help me, let us say I lost a job, I had a Kirana shop and suddenly Amazon is delivering all the stuff to my home, so I no longer have a job. I need to have the basic digital literacy and have access to a tablet or a laptop and connectivity. As we discussed earlier, the cost of doing that is of the order of about $300 to $400 per year. And it is worth noting that if we were to invest that, it is my estimate the economic activity of the country will triple or increase by a factor of 10 within a few years. And that will take care of the thing. All of that assumes each individual has the connectivity, fully connected, and has the digital literacy, and has been shown how to access whatever they need by learning to learn and learning to think, to discover whatever they need. And those are the issues for us in the next 5-10 years. And I think we'll get there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now I invite Professor Raj Kumar from SRM University to ask a question to Mr. Narayan.
Very great. Good evening and good morning, sir, for both of you. I am very much privileged and honored to be part of this conference. And my name also Raj Reddy. So many people are not knowing. So I am very much happy for that. And behalf of SRM institution, I just have a question in mind. Many people have, we already spoke about the technology. I just want to have a question to Mr. Narayana Murthy, sir. Kindly provide your views for skill development for non-IT students in India. That's my question, sir. Thank you.
I'll tell you, I think I keep speaking like a broken record. I keep repeating like a broken record. I hope you don't mind. My view is that technical skills are easy to pick up. That's not the problem. Whatever, IT, non-IT, whatever it is. What is difficult is cultural transformation and development of soft skills. Let me speak a little bit about these soft skills rather than technical skills or cultural issues. First is discipline. Indians, by and large, are very poor in discipline. We do not come to meetings on time. We do not follow the rules of the road. Just to give you 2 examples. Second, the level of dishonesty in India is much higher than most other countries, as Transparency International keeps telling us every year. We are in the bottom 25% or bottom whatever it is of honesty. And there is a lot of my foreign friends tell me that there is a lot of issues of bribery. Third is apathy. We see a problem and we do nothing to solve it. We see lots of corruption around us and we do nothing. We see other people littering the roads and we do not do anything about it. Fourth, we take care of our family and our private property, but we do nothing about public property and the societal property like roads, parks, lakes, rivers, etc. Ganga has been cleaned several times, spending tens of thousands of crores, but it is made dirty very quickly again. Fifth, we have to learn to write and speak English better and better because that is the language of the world. Whether we like it or not, as Professor Reddy pointed out, English has lot more knowledge available on the internet and in terms of books for engineering, medicine, and other professional areas than any Indian language, including Hindi. Further, if we want to succeed in exports, we have to improve in English. Sixth, we have to learn the cultural nuances of other cultures and practice. For example, we interrupt when the other person is speaking. This is a unique Indian habit. Except, of course, there are some TV stations, even in the US, where people do that. But that's not the norm. As Rudyard Kipling once said, we become intimate before becoming friendly, while generally a Westerner becomes friendly first and then he or she will become intimate. We ask favors of people even if we do not know them well. Seventh, we are rather poor in teamwork. We have to learn to work better in our teamwork capability, and we work in silos. So I would say that if the whole country focuses on improving these attributes of our culture, which we have unfortunately developed over probably the last 1,000 years or so, I believe that learning technical skills, whether as IT or non-IT, they would be easy. Let me stop here.
Thank you, sir. Another two questions, then we are done. So now I invite Ms. Preeta to ask a question to Professor Reddy. Ms. Preeta.
Sorry?
Good evening, all. I'm very glad to participate in this online webinar conference. Thanks to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation for giving me this opportunity. I'm Preeta from Dr. M.J. Janaki College of Arts and Science for Women. My question is to Professor Reddy, sir. And my question is, what are the key challenges to adoption of AI in India, sir?
Sir, you are muted, sir. Please unmute, sir.
Dr. Balki, can you repeat the question? What are the what?
What are the key challenges to adoption of AI in India?
In India.
What are the key challenges?
Yes, sir.
Adoption of AI in India.
Yeah, basically, again, there's nothing magical about AI, as Dr. Nayanamurthy was saying. My view is it is basically a literacy issue, namely, we need to educate everyone on digital literacy, right? That means they may need to know English before they can begin to at least access the content on the web. If you have access to the content on the web, and if you're halfway intelligent, and almost all of us are, and if you're a fifth grade student who graduated, and you can listen to the YouTube videos, there's enough content about AI as is there about almost any other subject there. So you, with a dedicated student, can learn about AI in matters of days and weeks, and especially whatever that might be needed. The best example I can give you is our famous mathematician, Srinivasa Ramanujan. He failed intermediate, right? He couldn't go to college. But he knew enough English from high school, and he was given this book by Carr, which had all of mathematics for 300 years. He was able to read it and figure it out by himself. And what is unique about him, and is like Ekalavya, he was able to learn without a teacher. We are entering a world where almost all of us will be learning without a teacher. We already do that. Once we finish college, we never have a teacher. But imagine, instead of waiting till the age 21, supposing you can learn after age 10, anything, because you already have the digital literacy. And IT is nothing, no different than reading, writing, and arithmetic at that lowest level. And I think it's important that for us to understand that almost any subject, just including AI, there are no limits to what one can learn, especially if you're a connected population with access to network and devices and basic literacy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is the final question. This is from Sethu Raman, Professor, Satyabama University.
Good evening, sir. I'm Sethu Raman from Satyabama University. My question is, how can we prepare our students for the Industrial Revolution 4.0?
Once again, let me come to the question of how to produce the kind of talent that the country wants to handle all future industrial revolution, not just the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 100th, it doesn't matter. There are several dimensions to solving this problem, or at least attempting to solve it. First is to change the mindset of our college students from being reactive problem solvers to proactive problem recognizers and solvers. This is the only way we can hope to produce a Google or a Microsoft or a Facebook. Our youngsters expect their customers to define the next step in solving a business problem for them. This is from my own experience at Infosys, I'm telling. Whether it is Infosys, TCS, whatever, doesn't matter. They're all the same. These youngsters can start implementing the technical solution only after the customer has told what is the next step in the business problem. With this kind of mindset, India will find it very difficult to produce a Snowflake or a Salesforce.com or an Apple. Now, this problem cannot be solved unless we reorient our education system right from the primary school stage towards studying our environment, understanding why it is so, define what can be better, and use our intelligence to overcome the limitations of the environment. For example, somebody in the West long time ago asked why they could not talk to a person who was far away. and started solving that problem. That resulted in the telephone system. Somebody else asked why they could not see a person who was 100 miles away, and that's how television was invented. The second dimension is our fast deteriorating quality of English. Sorry, I come back to the same thing again and again. English has become the universal language of communication and knowledge. Our youngsters will have to become the best communicators in English if we want to absorb all the knowledge that the world is generating each day. That is the only way we can produce the best engineers, best doctors, best scientists, and best managers under the current circumstances. But if we continue the policy of suppressing English, India, in my opinion, I may be completely wrong. I hope I am wrong. My fear is India will revert to being a dark, undeveloped, poor, unhealthy, and suffering place. Unless the solution is we will have to take the availability of knowledge in our Indian language from 1% of what is available in English on internet, as Professor Reddy pointed out, to 70-80%. Our examination system has to change from rote learning to open book system. Today, I have seen top ranking students in some of the local engineering colleges learn by heart a couple of computer programs without even understanding it and obtain 100 or 100 marks in the examination. I am saying this after interviewing probably hundreds of toppers in computer science from our local engineering colleges. And let me tell you, most of them cannot even write the pseudocode for P&V semaphores, which I think the computer science people amongst the audience will clearly understand what it is. This is almost like a student of accounting not knowing debits and credit. This has to change. This will not change unless the best students from the open book examination paradigm are incentivized to become teachers. I started that experiment in 2002 in the education research group at Infosys. Let me stop here.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the conclusion of Q&A session. Now I request Mr. Sheikh Salim to give a thank you note.
Thank you very much. It is an absolute privilege and an honor to share this platform with Professor Raj Reddy and Professor Balakrishnan and all of you. I thank you people for this. I'm glad that we are today in some way remembering an extraordinary individual in Dr. Kalam. And India was very lucky to have had him as our president. I knew him very, very well. He was a personal friend. And, just before he became the president, he and I had decided to go from one village to another village and talk about how technology will improve, show some experiments, how technology, particularly IT, can improve, etc. I was about to order a vehicle from the US where we could sleep, we could even have food and all of that. But then, country wanted him and he was chosen the president. So I'm very, very happy to be part of this event today. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, from my side. I think it's a great honor. I learned a lot of things, more than what I could have got from, 10 books in the last 1 hour. And I also personally know at what high esteem that, Dr. Kalam held you and Professor Raj Reddy. every now and then, I used to have a 1 a.m. conversation with him every day. And whenever you talk about something, he will say, did you ask, he used to call you Dr. Murthy. So don't get upset when I call you by a habit. Otherwise, he will say, you ask Professor Raj. So I think he had, when it comes to technology, I think you two were the destination point and nothing beyond that. I think he held you at a very high esteem. In fact, his affection for Sudha is also quite high.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I must tell you.
Yeah.
And I must add one more thing that, in Istanbul, I was with Dr. F.C. Kohli.
Yeah.
And at that time, I just made a mistake saying that when he mentioned about your name, I said, he is Sudha's husband. That's the way I knew you. And he said, Balki, you tell this outside, people will murder you for that. So, pardon me for that, because I think we are good friends for 50 years now.
Of course.
So, it's a great pleasure and honor, sir. And, Dr. Raj is one of my mentors, along with Dr. Kalam, Satish Dhawan, and CNR Rao. Without the four of them, I wouldn't have been where I am. I think with Professor Raj also, I think Dr. Kalam started several technology initiatives, including the VoIP that he mentioned.
Yeah.
We were the first one to use the VoIP to connect the Ministry of IT, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Indian Institute of Science, and Carnegie Mellon on a single conversation. So it was the idea of Professor Raj Reddy, and there are several other technologies which he brought. I think it's a great pleasure and honor for me, sir. I certainly learned a lot. And, I'm sure the youngsters would have learned even more. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Raj.
Sudha and I had an interaction with Professor Raj Reddy.
Right.
He had just won the Turing Award. So we went to his house. He had come to Bangalore. We went to his house and we met him and his wife and congratulated him. He said, do you remember who won the Chemistry Nobel Prize last year?
Correct. And Sudha has mentioned it in the book.
Yeah, and he said, this is nothing. Don't worry. This is one of the things. So he was so simple, so unassuming. I think for me, he has always been a role model in humility, in his scholarship, in the way he has conducted himself. So I am truly honored to have shared.
Sir, you are no less humble. When three of us came, Anu, myself, and Professor Raj came to your house for lunch, I think in the truest of the Indian tradition, you took his blessings by, Shashtanga Namaskaram, by falling at his feet. Okay, so I think you are no less humble. And the second thing I'll tell you, when I mentioned about what Sudha has mentioned in the book, he said 100 years from now, nobody will remember who it is. Yeah. That's what she has written.
Yeah.
But then he said, no, that's not true. People will remember Narayan Murthy after 100 years as well. This is exact words which he said about you. So I thought I should tell you that. Correct, Professor Raj? You remember you told me?
Yeah. Basically, there are some people who have transformed the world. People like Wright brothers about inventing the planes, and Mahatma Gandhi. And in industry, IT industry, for thousands of years, Narayan Murthy will be a known name. And I have no doubt about it.
Sir, I was a witness. This was not, it came spontaneously out of his heart.
It is true. It is true. It is going to be true. Mark my word.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Sheikh, you can...
Sheikh Salim will give a thank you note now. 1 minute.
Okay, Salim, how are you? Go ahead.
Sir, fine, sir. Thank you, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion on behalf of the APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation, House of Kalam, Rameshwaram. Glory to the Almighty for making this successful event a memorable one. We pray He could give us the strength to guidance throughout our journey in pursuit of good for the whole humanity. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Raj Reddy sir, University Professor of Computer Science and Robotics, also have been NASA Chair at Carnegie Mellon University, who despite his commitments had consented to grace this occasion. Thank you, sir. And also, I've loved Padmasri Dr. N.R. Narayanmurthy sir, founder of Infosys, former CEO, chairman, and chief mentor of Infosys. Thank you, sir. And also, a special thanks to Professor Dr. N. Balakrishnan, former Associate Director, Indian Institute of Science, for being a part of this great event. We are absolutely delighted to have you all grace the occasion. We would like to acknowledge the contribution of the members for the success of the event. Your support and cooperation is appreciated. I would like to end my speech reminding the citizens with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's words, we are all born with a divine fire in us. Our efforts should be to give wings to this fire and fill the world with the glow of its goodness. Let's rekindle the fire within us to propel our country on the path to success. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nandal.
Thank you. I will log off now. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Please log
I will log off.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Reddy. Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Your support and cooperation is appreciated. I would like to end my